When I was younger, I wanted long hair, but it was not possible. My hair was cut very short, and I looked like a boy from afar. My mother consoled me. She told me I looked like Audrey Hepburn and that it was very chic and modern, and all the girls at school who told me I was a professor were simply jealous because of how stylish I looked. And anyway, their opinion didn't much matter because they didn't know true style. I didn't find much comfort in this. I wanted very much to look like a girl, to have long hair, and to feel feminine. I didn't want anybody to mistake me for a boy, not from up close or from afar. As I get older, I realize that people do form impressions of you that are colored by their sense of style. And you might have certain things you want to achieve superficially. Perhaps you want to be liked by everybody at the debate society, or you want to be a respected member of your newspaper at college. Perhaps you just want to have a good relationship with your family because this seems to be in line with your aesthetic. But I think it is worth keeping in mind that even in your fantasy of what other people think of you, you have a say in who gets to look at you in a particular way. So, for instance, if you want to be someone who is well liked, you need to keep in mind that the audience that you might want, that your particular style might draw forth, is very particular. And what I mean by this is that I ran for editor of the Conservative Society newspaper and I lost. And as I lost, I looked around me and I actually didn't feel that bad. I felt a little bit sad. I had plans for that publication, but I didn't feel too down about it. I shook my opponent's hand, and he told me very paternalistically that competition is a healthy part of life, and I nodded and I left. But before I left, as I stood there and looked around myself at these people who I had intended to serve as editor in chief of their publication, I was suddenly struck by the fact that I didn't like them very much. And the next week, I'd be offered a position, political officer, which I turned down because it was too much work and not worth it. And also because of this realization, I don't like these people very much. You might be familiar with the lyric that Morrissey sings in Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now by the Smiths. Morrissey says, "Why do I give valuable time to people who I'd much rather kick in the eye?" I think that's a good question to ask because the rejection of those we love is very painful. But for some reason, many of us also subject ourselves to the rejections of people who we don't like very much. My point isn't that anytime you respect or admire someone, you stake your identity on how they perceive you. But what I am saying is that when seeking the approval of any individual, you should make sure that they are someone you like, not someone who you love or respect, but someone that you like. We all love our parents for the most part, and I would say that many of us also experience a kind of love for those that we admire, whom we admire. And I think that it might be worth perhaps also considering whether or not these people are individuals who we could stand to spend an extended period of time with. That is, the individuals whose validation we seek. Are they insufferable individuals? And if that is the case, perhaps their opinion doesn't matter very much. I think we should always ask ourselves what our opinion is. And our opinion can be shaped by the people we've loved. When I think of my moral values, they are shaped to a great deal by my sister, or my mother, or my friends, and my family members, and the books I've read growing up. But ultimately, it is something that I negotiate for myself. There are many things that I do in terms of clothing and romance that my family members do not approve of, and they advise me against these things. But I think that they're fine to do because I've decided for myself that they are not causing me the grief that other people fear they might be. I think that it is worth taking a step back in the approval game and considering whose opinion really matters. Because in a few years from now, or even a week from now, these people will not care about you. Like when you're crying, or when you lose a parent, or when you will have like debilitating cramps on your period, these people won't be there. So I think they don't really get much of a say. Who does get a say is perhaps who you are dependent on, which is why young children, I think, should consult their parents in making decisions. Which brings me on to my main point. You should depend at a certain point only on yourself. They say that no man is an island and that connections with other human beings are important. And I think they're definitely nourishing. But I think that in trying to find that village to raise the child, you neglect care of the child itself. You require the help of others. You require them, but only as add ons, not the core love and acceptance that you feel, which should come from yourself. I wonder about all of this because I am back on Instagram and I spent a year or more not using Instagram because I thought that it was having a bad impression, a bad effect on my life. And so I deleted Instagram. And I was still using YouTube regularly. So perhaps, and WhatsApp, and Gmail, and Pinterest. So perhaps it didn't reap as many benefits as I could have. But one thing that I would like to say I got out of this experience was some of the stuff I am now experiencing now that I'm back on Instagram. Now that I'm back on Instagram, I find myself refreshing it a lot and being subjected to media that is not always the most nourishing. And I wonder whether or not I should post pictures of myself. Let's see it from different perspectives. You sometimes get a good idea about what your relationship should be like with yourself when you externalize it in the form of relations you might have with others. So, in the case of a romantic partner, if I was dating someone, I would want them to post pictures with me all the time to show off what they've got. If I was friends with someone, I'd want to, yeah, I think I'd also want that. I'd want to see myself identified there. Like when I go through my tag pictures and I see all the pictures I have with my friends, I always feel like, wow, that's a real person. I'm a real person, and I feel like I'm a part of their lives and I've lived a life and I see myself through their eyes a little bit. My friend, whenever she posts pictures of events we've been to together, she will sometimes put a separate picture just for me, like my outfit or something, and I love that so much. It's like she's showing me off, and I like that. I want to show myself off as well. But maybe the relationship needs to get to a point where one can start doing that. For instance, if I just started dating someone last week, I would find it suspect. If flattering, I'd find it suspect if someone just started posting pictures willy-nilly, as the English say. So perhaps what's required here is to build a relationship with myself where I can then show myself off. But what about if you had a child? If I had a child, I would not post any pictures of them. Never, never, never. Not as a child, not as a teenager, never. I would never post any pictures of them because, like, I get to, like, decide on social media what our relationship looks like. My friends or romantic partners are on social media, you know? I would assume. So it's like I would be an addition to their feed, but with my child, why would I want to share pictures of my child when people could use it for all sorts of purposes? And I don't know, I want to protect my child from evil eye and all sorts of things. So that's where it becomes tricky, because when I think about having a good relationship with myself, the parent dynamic seems to be the most effective. More than friend or romantic partner, it is that of parent. That pushes me to shepherd myself and to look after myself really well. I think it would be insincere to start posting pictures with a romantic partner before our relationship's gotten to a certain point. And I want to respect their wishes, of course, right? I wouldn't just like, I'd want to solidify my love for them as part of my identity, and my identity is like showcased in the online sphere if I have an Instagram profile that I post on, right? You can call it digital diary or giving your information to the government. Unprompted, it's your choice. But I wonder about this. When I've had the most positive self image, I didn't really post much on social media. I had taken a break, not of a year, but I just wasn't using social media at all. And I wasn't giving my data to the internet, and I was kind of like somewhat got paranoid. But I had a discipline during that part in my life. Like when I was reading a book, if I came across something hard, I would just like reread it until I got it. Like it wasn't enough to just read the book, I had to understand every point. My reasoning for things really mattered. And I feel as I gotten older, a lot of those like things I've kind of lost track of. I've stopped doing them. One thing I think often is like, I don't want to post on social media unless it's a brilliant picture. I think that is a good philosophy and I'll stick by that. Like, it shouldn't just be a pretty picture, it should be like mind blowing. Like, this should be the only picture on my profile, kind of. I posted a picture actually last night, and it wasn't super mind blowing, but I thought I looked pretty in it. You know, you know. When you know, I guess is the point, right? I saw this picture and I picked the song by Lana Del Rey and I looked at this girl and thought, wow, she looks really pretty and she deserves beautiful things and she's so exceptional and she's the one, like when you know, and I looked at her, I kind of knew. So maybe I'll know when it's right to post on social media. If I get an icky feeling in my chest and there's a lot of resistance, maybe that means I shouldn't post it. But if I feel like, oh, sexy girl, oh my god, this has to go on the gram, then I'm not. You have to be the kind of person who says things like the gram. Then I will post. How did I start making this video? I wasn't talking about social media, was I? I was talking about something else entirely. My hair. Yes, my hair has gotten very long indeed. And I intend to look very different soon. And I think it's worth doing.